Cool. All right. Welcome everyone to the dProfiles call. Today, we have a few different cool topics to discuss. If you haven't seen the agenda / meeting notes, I'll post it in the chat right now. If someone wants to help to take notes, feel free. So I guess the main so there's two main things that we wanted to talk about from the 3box lab side. Then we have two main external presentations. So dnsxyc is going to present kind of what they've been working on, building kind of a profile system. And then Hamad, if he joins, is going to talk about, I think, dynamic NFT metadata and how that relates to IDX, I believe. So, yeah, I guess before we start, so we have kind of an exciting thing that happened recently, and that's that we basically launched a ceramic mainnet. So we have a few projects that are live. And so some of the things that we're going to be showing today is like actually live on mainnet already. All right, so actually, yeah, before we kind of kick off into the main topics we had already, is there anyone else that has something else that they want to talk about or present or just kind of get some feedback on, or just chatting? All right, then if not, I'll hand it over to Zach to talk about 3ID Connect.
Yep, sounds good. So I'll share my screen.
Joel, by the way, I'm taking notes.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, I guess it overlaps a little bit. Paul will talk more about SelfID after. I'm just going to show a bit of 3ID Connect through here for now. And as Joel said, yeah, this is on mainnet now. Basically, we've also discussed some of these parts in our past calls as well, but 3ID Connect is the kind of main way that you get a DID provider inside your web browser. So most of the time when you're using Ceramic and you're using these authenticate to sign stuff in Ceramic, they'll need a DID provider, and you can use that at 3ID Connect. 3ID Connect allows people to link their blockchain accounts. So if you use MetaMask, you can just authenticate and create a DID provider with that. We also support a few other chains, and you can link your DID across accounts. So that's what's supported here. So if I click Connect, click to this flow. Yep, so this little modal that pops up here is 3ID Connect. Yeah, it's basically asking for users' permission if they want to authenticate to this app, and yeah, give that app a DID provider for Ceramic. There's two options here. I can create a new ID. So this, if I did that, I'd create a new DID, and then that would ask me to basically sign an authentication message in MetaMask and a linking message. That link that's created is a publicly verifiable link that allows someone to resolve your DID from their Ethereum address, for example. There's another option here. If I just click on this one instead, this brings up this other app here. So this window has, so I already have these accounts already stored in 3ID Connect. These two of the DIDs that I created earlier, they're linked to these Ethereum accounts here. So basically I have the option to, instead of creating a new DID, I can just link this Ethereum address to one of these. We won't really see much clicking through here. Actually, I can't get on multiple windows right now. But yeah, in the background, as I said before, that's just asking me to sign these two messages in MetaMask. See if those resolve. And now I authenticated with that DID that I linked to. And now that DID is linked to this account as well. Yeah, that's basically the current state. This is some other things, for example. Also, if you have used 3box in the past, it migrates your 3box DIDs and profiles now onto Ceramic mainnet. And that's all part of using 3D Connect. So if you had users before and they use it, their DIDs will be migrated to Ceramic as well as their profile data, along with the Twitter links and GitHub links. If you have very old 3Box accounts, it'll actually create new DIDs instead. But that's all, it takes the user through the flow in 3D Connect. Yeah, that's the current state. We're also, the first goal is just to get the like core plumbing and stuff out. So there's not a lot of polish on the UI yet. And yeah, we're actively working on trying to make that, yeah, basically improve that flow. All those pieces that you saw. Yeah, that's all I got. If anyone else wants to add anything else, or I can show something else.
Any questions on 3D Connect? All right.
We can, yeah, I was gonna say we can show where it's headed and like the new designs if useful. So to Zach's point of like cleaning up the UI, I can just quickly share where that is. And we basically got a lot of feedback as people were building on the test net for a couple main things. So one is like increase the transparency of sort of requests that are coming in and generally improve the feeling of a trusted user experience. And so as part of providing that stuff, we are in the process right now of specifying. So these things are still very fluid and are open to any and all feedback, but really we're gonna make the sort of 3D Connect modals, especially the permissions flow and the account creation flow, is just much more pleasing on the eye and sort of trust instilling. And so we're gonna like let apps customize their color so it matches their app. We'll show information like the user's image for their DID, if one exists, show their DIDs, show some metadata about the application, like the favicon or the icon if they have it. So users can sort of have more clarity as to what's going on. And yeah, and overall just other customizations like being able to change the positioning on the screen or background overlays and things like that. So trying to make it fit better into developers' application design and overall flow, as well as making the UX better. Zach, did I miss anything there?
Nope.
Cool.
Yeah, I was just typing the answer to the question in chat as well. Yeah, and those 2 points, like a lot of the UI will become more reusable components, and we are separating out some of those pieces. And 3D Connect, while bundled all like this, there is some core libraries that are basically JavaScript only for managing DIDs. We just haven't made those too public yet.
So basically as part of this, whether if it's in the exact first iteration or some coming iterations, we'll be cleaning up the way it's like architected and built to make it more extensible if you wanted, right? Like you can reuse core components, what you're saying.
Yep.
Is that more than just like, I know if I recall correctly, it's using an iframe right now, most of it. So would that entail really like bringing that out into more of like a React component or separate iframes? What would that exactly look like?
Yeah, it's not entirely defined. The keychain, the reason it's an iframe is because the keychain is in the iframe on our domain. Of course, we realize other people might want to implement it in different ways. So saying like basically the core JS part only that manages like the auth methods and the linking is like a separate library and interface now. And it's just basically hosted in that iframe. And then is attached to these hooks that you see in the UI. Yeah, and we don't have too many plans for the UI stuff further out other than some basic customization. We are, yeah, we're looking at all these things right now. Just no like hard plans for those. Yeah.
Okay, so
Exactly.
so if needed, I could take that more general backend library and like integrate it with something that's like a React component or a React frontend that's custom to our application, so that we keep the interop and whatever advantages that we would have for using your special system for that.
Yeah, that would be one possibility. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. All right, thanks for that. So next up, I think Burke from dnsxyc is going to give us an overview of what they're building.
Sort of. Burke is not here actually, but the two others in our team are here, and myself. So I think Voltec can drive the demo on that one. I know you, Joel, have been helping the team, so of course you're familiar with what we're up to, and Michael also. I don't think others here do know. So we're building essentially Web3 profiles for crypto people on top of Ceramic and IDX. And in a way, what we're trying to do is to make it that's kind of like a very easy front end for everything you'd like to do with IDX. So if you're looking to have a did and you're not necessarily like not necessarily a technical person, or not necessarily trying to be in like more like a dev kind of thing, and more like, okay, I'm just gonna have a profile page that feels like Linktree or some even like basic Facebook profile type of thing, that we're the open standard for something like that. Of course, it's all built on what you guys built, so we're very much just in the business of trying to make it look easy. So Voltec, do you wanna show what we have?
Yeah, sure. We are in a bit of a transition period right now, but I will try to show what I can reasonably show. Would we want to just share screens, or what do you have in mind?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, can everyone see the screen all right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So this is what you would see on the homepage. Up here is where you would be able to log in. Right now, I'm currently logged in, so I'm gonna log out. So here's our main login screen.
So you might want to explain, what we ended up doing to build this login screen, because it's a little bit different from the dConnect approach.
Yes, yeah. So you have your general options up here. So MetaMask, Wallet Connect, Coinbase Wallet. These are all general Ethereum-based providers that most people would want to use. Then there's Taurus, Portis, and Fortmatic. I'm going to focus on Taurus here. So Taurus allows you to get an Ethereum account. I'm not sure how many people are familiar with that, but essentially allows you to get an Ethereum account from an email address or another social account. So what we've actually done here is we've created our own custom widgets that allow you to actually log in via a Google account, Facebook, Apple, GitHub, and then it creates an Ethereum account for you via Taurus. And then with that, allows you to create a DID and create your Ceramic IDX account. So it would allow general ClearNet normal Web 2 users to get on the platform fairly easily and link their account information with that. So link their Taurus Ethereum address with their DID. Get kicked. Okay, so I'm going to sign in here. So here I have my account information. This all saves on the standard basic profile. So I'm going to put my name here. I'm going to put my description. And so these are all the standard fields that come in basic profile up here. Now we have some other fields down here, like add another wallet. This allows you to add other Ethereum wallets or other cryptocurrency wallets outside of Ethereum. So if I can click that, I can put in a Bitcoin address here. Or if I need to, I can go over to Ethereum and then connect another Ethereum wallet via MetaMask or any of the other providers that we have. So if I click connect to an Ethereum wallet, I have a bunch of different choices here: MetaMask, Wallet Connect, Portis, Google, Apple, all these different ones. This is through Web3 Modal. So we actually use Web3 Modal, which gives us they have an API that gives us a Ethereum provider, which then we can go through the standard process of signing a message and creating essentially a secret key from that message and a DID along with that. So we're going to have a social section here where you can actually add your social accounts, the names of your social accounts, and allow people to, on your public page, view those actual social links, those individual chips, and go to them. So if you have a Twitter and you want to link it in here, you can have that as a thing people can click on when they're viewing your page. Interest is another section that we're working on where we can categorize accounts as similar to each other. So if in our particular space, this is for like NFT artists where they want to put their NFTs in these individual spaces here, and they can we can essentially categorize accounts as similar. So for content discovery, if people want to find other similar accounts, et cetera,
hobbies and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. So our main thing is the grid here. This is where we put like links, NFTs, a bunch of different things. So this is actually our own custom schema that we have created. A couple of things are going to get changed in here, but this is the general layout. You have your title, which is here. Then you have your subtitle down here. And then you have the actual link of where it goes to, which is just an HTTP URL or a custom URL. If you have like an IPFS / or IPNS / you can actually go to those pages if needed. So of course you have text color customization needed, as well as background. And then you can delete. So yeah, of course, change your profile picture, change cover photo. You can click here. These are all, the cover photo is a standard basic profile field as well as the avatar image here. And we're also going to have a wallpaper on the sides, which is going to be a custom field in there. But eventually, hopefully, that we can release an actual standard, get interoperability with different UIs that actually support the idea of having a cover photo, which is this section here, and then having a wallpaper that's actually on the sides of that, on the sides of the page, that overlays all the other content aside from this primary section here. So how about?
Yeah, that's a cool idea. I like that too. You even have me thinking about, if is that like just, do you imagine that wallpaper setting is local to sort of like the profile and the profile view, or do you imagine that could have extensible utility throughout the rest of an application's interface?
Absolutely, the latter.
Yeah, I'm almost like, because to some extent we've often, or when we were first thinking of the concept of IDX, Paul can probably say more, but we thought of having some sort of like accessibility stream where it's like, has schemas, or you can sort of set a subset of accessibility. So like display settings or something, and then you can sort of like store a whole bunch of related data to, how an application should present itself to a user.
Okay.
Like, like sizing, dark mode, that type of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, that's exactly like because since all this data is public, it's more this stuff becomes almost like a person's gravatar, right? And then it's like, yeah, this is my profile photo. This is all the about me stuff and everything. So we're definitely less interested in being like, this is the thing for this page, and more like, okay, this is my public stuff, and you can use it and all that, right? So the other thing I want to point out, I mean, Voltec, if you could tell, like maybe the fields that are not part of the kind of like basic profile and the things that we can do, essentially we're stuffing a whole bunch of stuff in like our own arbitrary schemas that we feel like could be part of a like kind of like standard profile stuff. Can you show that, Voltec?
Yeah. So all yeah. Yeah, I guess I'll just talk. So the main fields are like, you have your name, which is standard basic profile, biography, description, location, country, nationality, website, birthday, gender / pronouns, whatever you want to call it, and then work. In this case, we have a field called work, which is affiliations, but we have changed that over to just being work or a single field for now. But in the actual basic profile schema, that would be multiple things. But for now, we're just going to call it work as your single thing, and it sets a single item in that array. The only things that are non-standard in this are since we have around the avatar, we have that gradient ring that you saw. That's non-standard, but we would hope to put that in our own schema and then publish that schema so people can use gradients around their avatars. So aside from just the actual like photo of someone's account, you would also see that gradient that would go around it, that sort of extra halo that would make it look nice. And people can customize that and change that, add different gradients, add different images, different colors, etc. So that's one thing that's currently non-standard that we are just putting into basic profile right now as an extra field. And for all the grid items, that's just an entirely separate schema entirely. It's not in basic profile, it's in our own thing. But we will be looking at later on to standardize that and get that published so all apps can integrate and work with that.
Sorry, what was that, the schema for the links?
Sorry. Oh, yeah, we have a custom schema for the grid items or links. So that's all custom. That's being put onto its own record in IDX, completely separate from the basic profile. The other schemas like the wallpaper and the gradient around the avatar, those are all just extra fields on the basic profile right now. That's how we're doing it. But then everything else, like the actual gradient and the actual links, all that data is stored on its own separate custom schema on IDX as its own custom IDX record.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I got that. That's yeah, I'm interested to see what types of standards, especially if other people on this call have any opinion, can be pulled out of that, like particularly for the grid items. It's interesting. It's sort of like, do you imagine, I guess, you know, through observation or as your working assumption, do you think people are just going to put all kinds of stuff in there? Do you think it's going to be more like, you know, like links to their profiles or content on other sites? Like, do you have a sense of how people will use that?
So
Yeah.
we're thinking about this as like item types right now. When we say links right now, I mean, it's because we started with that, but we took this kind of like generic, you know, box approach because it's so easy to think of them as like, this could be a YouTube embed, or this could be a music album that you click and then there's music tracks in there that you then buy, you know, like whatever, right? Could be an NFT in the box or anything. Could be a blog post. It could be a photo or a photo gallery and stuff. So technically it's more like the, if you're familiar with the Facebook API, you know, you have all these like post types, you know, or the Twitter one where you have the different card types. It's that basically. Yep. So we started with obviously just links because it's like the most basic thing, or it's literally, it's not even content on our side, it's elsewhere. So that's like the most basic item we could have for someone, but we want to evolve that. And so there's the general like schema, like structure for something like this, which we're like defining here, which is basically like going like, okay, an item has a name, has a title, has a subtitle, maybe a link, maybe an image, this kind of stuff. And then like more specifics per new item types we'll add later. And we started with doing this kind of like very arbitrary approach to that, but I would much prefer if we aim to either make this into a standard or like take elements from standards out there and then, you know, add to that or something like that. Because right now it's like, it's a bit jank, honestly. And especially when we have like a profile that like, you know, has a bunch of hashtags, but we're like, oh, that's not in basic profile. So we're just gonna, you know, make up something. It's stuff like this that feels a bit like, okay, well, it's everything's early. And so, yeah, if there are things we can do for making like item types, post types, like more structured and, you know, less bespoke to us, that'd be cool. The other reason I'm saying that is because yesterday we spoke with Jay Garber, who's working with the Twitter, you know, what's it called, Blue Sky team.
Yep.
And it sounds like what they're trying to do is a bit like research on standards that they could do for interop post like
Yeah,
cross.
we're a part of the Blue Sky group too. We like attend. We're in their Discord, or I guess they have a Matrix chat.
Yeah, I didn't know about the Discord. I know about the Matrix chat. We're being added to that. It would be
Cool.
good to be maybe in the Discord, but same reason, right? It's like how do we interop and play with these kinds of formats? Because I mean, we're not theory, we're building it right now, right? So I try to do it this way.
Yeah, I think that's cool. I like the idea of the post types and making that a standard. I'm even like, you know, my mind's just kind of tumbling on if they're Paul, like, I guess on your side, I don't know if you have any sense of like how long the list of items would be, if it's something that people just like continually add to, and it's sort of like what's more recently posted is more relevant, or if you imagine them being like more static objects of a set number or a maximum number that they like continue to update. Because I think like depending on how they're perceived, is it just like my content objects or?
Do you have 2 minutes to let me walk you through theory on that and stuff, or?
Yeah, Joel, how are we doing on time?
I think we're okay. 2 minutes should be fine.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So there's a very good model called social objects, which was coined by this guy called Yuri Engerström, who's like a Finnish researcher. Used to make who made some of the early social networks and was hired by Google to make theirs and stuff back then. Anyway, social objects is the idea that it's the object that you discuss in the social network, right? The network itself being the edges and nodes, where you go like, hey, A and B are connecting about certain kind of item. You know, A created this kind of item, whatever. But the object being like the item that you center around in a social network. So the social object on YouTube is the video. The social object on Foursquare is the check-in. You know, the place. On Twitter, it's the post, etc., etc. And so here we're talking about a very broad standard for social objects, where we're saying actually any item could be a social object in the system, but we're starting with items like links, which is like if you look at somewhere like Linktree, you have a certain expectation of how social objects work, because the way something like Linktree is used is to link in bio page. And so people get there from Instagram, and then they get to a page, and the page is the social object that has like a bunch of links in there, and the links are the things people use, blah, blah, blah. But so that's expected to be static because of that, right? Because it's your link in bio. It's not supposed to be up to date all the time kind of thing. It's just kind of a business card. So it's, those are not expected by people in terms of UX to be dynamic. Of course, if you send me to your Instagram or your TikTok and I see stuff from 3 years ago, then I'm going to be very disappointed. So it turns out that it's not so much about the way you define the item that defines the way that people consume it. It's more like, how do you surface social objects to people? And that's completely dependent on the use case. So basically, if you're asking me like, oh, are we interested in making a blog view of our items? Well, the answer is yes, right? Like, it's like, of course we should, people are interested in making like little status updates, like micro blogs and like all this like Tumblr like stuff. We have a system for it. We just don't have a view for it right now because we're focusing on links, because that's the like lowest hanging fruit. But you know, so stuff like timelines and infinite scroll and all of that stuff makes sense for certain kind of objects. We just don't do it right now, but we'll absolutely go there and make the views for that.
Super cool. So you see these objects and like the current, like, you know, yeah, the tiles or the objects that you like right now. You're just showing a couple because people are mainly using them for just like linking to other profiles or like important content, but over time it's gonna like more just grow into like your feed.
Exactly. And it's kind of like, you know, it's also the consideration of like how much technology is unproven stuff for us right now and all. So we're like, okay, static, not that much, whatever, like and prove like the most basic item, and then be able to add more stuff.
Yeah.
And all that.
That's cool, Paul. It sounds like a pen collection would be useful there.
I would love that, and I would love to be able to have different collections and tag stuff that way and then surface it. And you know, right now, like part of the thing is like we're using textile for private stuff. If you want to have photos and have permissions behind it, and you know, lock them behind NFT and this kind of stuff. And so again, like, hacky us coming up with standards on the fly. I don't want to do that, but we'll do it when we have to. But I really don't want to do that. So like the more we can collab on like making these items like a standard type thing and like an open thing that and even if you guys want to draft a protocol for things and stuff, we'll be happy to do that. And if not, then we'll contribute the way that you guys ask, and that's it.
I would say that this super interested in this stuff, and this exactly is sort of why, I think it's awesome that your team is dedicated to this and focusing on it, because there's so many of these types of things that like haven't yet been, the standard like hasn't been written or implemented. But I think the best way is, if you guys have a first draft, or if you even want to share your starting point and like some context, you can just open up a CIP or start drafting something like that. I feel like that's really how it's sort of like the requirement for these things to start to standardize, so people have something to react to.
I have no idea how we'd go about that.
Yeah,
so if you guys can give us pointers and stuff, or a little bit of hand holding there, that would be extremely helpful, because we're really keen to do it. It's just we don't know how to operate that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to walk you through. I think we have a call on this upcoming week or something, and can walk you through the CIP process. But I think that'd be the best way.
Awesome.
And then, like people that also care about that type of thing, it's easy for them to chime in.
Awesome.
Cool.
So
I do want to mention something real quick. In a way, the grid and how we currently are doing the grid is just an abstraction of what the content is. The sort of view of what that is. So if someone was to really make a post on there, it's not, the data isn't going to be stored in the actual grid items, the grid titles. It's likely going to store just a reference to that item. So that's something else that I think that we can look at and getting Interop is actually building a standard for blogging and these other types of like social data, so that any application can hook into that same database of data. And then however that application wants to abstract and show that data is up to how the application wants to implement that. Like if there's an application that wants to show it in like a list, they can do that. Or if they want to show that in like a more gridded view, all of that information can be easily like imported from one application to another and then shown in a certain way depending on what the use case is. So that's something we would definitely want to look at doing, is getting those kind of standards built and adopted. Alongside of what we're doing with the grids as well.
Sounds wonderful. Yeah, I mean, that would be so useful. And yeah, I mean, just being able to, even as an application to like having some types on it. So like I have one for blog posts and I have one for other types of objects. And so applications like, can even have an easier time of filtering those in their UI. I guess, do you imagine that, I guess, so as you're sort of storing the data in these formats and, the front ends are views, do you imagine that, other people might say to you, because we kind of saw this with 3box, like they come and they're like, oh, I love how you built this component in your app. Like, how can I do that? Do you have any thoughts of like creating components that make it easy for other people to use like your types of profile things in their app? Or are you just staying with your single view?
So can you clarify? Do you mean like adding to those pages on DNS? Or do you mean connecting with the DNS data and then making their own sites?
Yeah, like using the data created in the DNS app on other sites. And how much would you like encourage that in the beginning versus like dissuade that?
100% support it. Again, we're not interested in being just I'm not creating Facebook again, right? like it's been
cool.
The civilization, we've explored that, it doesn't fucking work. So like this stuff's open, and if people want to add to our thing, cool. If people want to extract from it and make their own thing, cool. I think what's more interesting is for the standard to become a standard. Because if we have that, then we have more people in Web3, and there's a lot more interesting things we can do, right? And it's not about like, okay, you click my link on this page, like no one cares about that, right? So that's the play here.
Awesome.
And this is why again, like any pointers on on us becoming like more standard. Like, you know, you talk about like types and stuff. I don't know if anyone's thought about that yet. And if someone has, it'd be great to connect with them and be like, oh, okay, we'll use that standard. And if not, well, then we'll do all the CIP stuff and all that, right?
Paul, does ActivityPub like have any, do they have these standards defined? Like, is it fairly easy for us to just piggyback on existing ones? Do you know? I know you looked into ActivityPub a bit.
Yeah, there is a activity stream standard from the W3C that defines a bunch of these types. That could be interesting. But I guess, yeah, it really depends on like how far you want to go to be close to their base standards, or coming up with your own standards there.
So ActivityPub does have, yeah, a lot of that. I remember because we looked into that, and we were curious, like, can we even do that? And the problem is, of course, it sounds like we need a server, and then that like defeats the whole thing. But we were even super keen to make like fuck, I forget the standard they have for the identity, you know, like the thing that Mastodon uses, all that. Like, you know.
Yep. Yeah, I forget what that's called. But yeah, I mean, basically, I don't mean that to use ActivityPub, but I think what.
No, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd make it easy to just use them as the basis. It's kind of what we did with the basic profile.
Yeah, if you guys did that, we
not
would
necessarily
totally.
them, but okay. That's good.
I guess maybe we should move on to the next topic.
Totally. Yeah, thank you for the time.
Yeah, thanks. So great. All right, so next up, we have Hamad to talk about NFT metadata.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm just gonna share my screen here. So this is a little like prototype we've built for Metafactory. So basically our use case for Ceramic and Metafactory, or at least one of them, is being a place where we can store our NFT metadata for virtual wearables. So right now it's pretty tricky. There's no like real standards around it. And if you want your metadata to be updatable, the most common, or like the only way I've seen that done right now is either like hosting the metadata on centralized servers where you can just change the response, or actually updating the metadata on chain, which is like really expensive for our use case, since we're going to have like thousands of these NFTs distributed to like many people for each one of the products that we sell. So instead, like we can mint these NFTs, and the metadata URI can just be a link to a Ceramic document, and or like the raw data of that Ceramic document. We have like a work in progress PR to enable like a raw data endpoint. That way the result return from that Ceramic document would be just the NFT metadata. And the cool part is we can sort of retroactively update these NFT wearables and add like additional new file types and support for new virtual worlds. So for example, let's see, can edit this. You can see like with this one, this has like a GLTF model, but we could go and edit this metadata and add like, you know, a Vox file for crypto voxels, or a VRM for VR chat. We can add like different versions of this thing in the future. And then, yeah, this UI is basically a way for us to update this metadata that's sitting in Ceramic, and also, you know, to mint new NFTs, set all this metadata here, and then also like to mint, distribute, and manage essentially the supply of these type of NFTs. The idea eventually is to I don't know if this will be in our first iteration, but we definitely want to do it where each one of the artists or designers or brands that was involved in the creation of each one of these products, we want to like link them in that metadata, as in like these were the designers, and link those to like IDX profiles or DIDs. And that way we can sort of have like, you know, here are products, here are people who made them. It has like the link, instead of just back to like an ETH address or a name, it's a link to an actual DID and a user profile. And the cool part about that is we can use that as like a way to distribute royalties based on like the sales of this product to the people who helped design it. So yeah, that's kind of an overview of what we're working on right now. It's not live or anything, it's just a prototype right now. We're working with a bunch of like different metaverse teams to like get buy-in on the best way to do this sort of thing, where you can have a single NFT that can be worn in multiple different virtual worlds. Because the problem right now is each virtual world has its own, like, you know, you have to have a separate NFT for each one, so it's not really like interoperable in that way. So we kind of have to like influence the way people like fetch the metadata, because instead of just one 3D file linked, there'll be multiple different 3D files depending on what platform the user's on. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. I didn't know you guys are working on all that. Super cool.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, solves a big problem in the NFT world. With because like the whole thing is like, if your metadata is updatable, then people, you know, don't really want to. It's hard to prove like the long term, you know, what if someone just updates it and like changes what the asset is or something. With Ceramic, we get that full like version history, and you know, so people can know that it's going to be preserved like whatever the original files were. Yeah.
Yep. And when you said at the end, you mentioned like standardizing how some of these interfaces like get data for these NFTs. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the OpenSea metadata standards are the most popular ones right now for NFTs, and they don't really have support for like multiple different file types. Like if you have a Vox file and a GLB file, usually they have like one field, it's like a 3D model or animation or something that people like put one of those 3D files on. But if you want like an array of files and each platform uses a different one, then those platforms will have to be aware that, you know, this is the field they need to look at. I think what we're using specifically is yeah, it's like you have to do like models.gltf or models.vox and fetch it from there. So we wanted ideally to make it work without any sort of integration on the platform level, but I feel like we'll need to do that anyways, but it shouldn't be too much of a difficult implementation on their side. The raw data endpoint on the Ceramic documents, I think, will be really useful, because that at least lets them not have to like integrate Ceramic or have knowledge of Ceramic. They can just treat it as like the raw JSON. But yeah, it's just they have to be aware of the multiple different files that are linked to that single NFT.
Cool. Yeah, this is exciting. It would be cool, like in the future, to experiment with like, as you mentioned, this kind of mutability. It's also like a source of concern, but like maybe like experimenting with different ways of like doing governance over like who can actually update the data and update the stream.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, thanks. Is there any other questions for Hamad? All right, then I guess we still have 12 minutes, so I'll hand it over to Paul to give a demo of SelfID.
Yeah, thanks. So, well, you've already seen the login flow with Zach through dConnect, so I won't get back to it, but pretty much the rest of what SelfID currently is displaying the basic profile information for the users. So having this dedicated page based on their DID. And when it's viewed by the authenticated owner of the page, of the DID, it's possible to edit it. At the moment, it's only about the basic profile information. So with the ability to edit these fields. But then we are also working on adding Twitter and GitHub verification links that will be added to this page and able to edit by the user to basically provide this as a generic way to display the information associated to a DID. Yeah, I think that's how it goes now. It's quite limited scope compared to dns.xyc, but hopefully it covers simple use cases that some apps might have. Any question?
Yeah, so we've been chatting with the dns.xyz team, and I think I think what we ultimately decided is we need to get SelfID at least into like a working state, like just adding the most basic profile and social things. So users have a backup in some way. And basically we're not going to really be pushing it. So I think, as long as DNS continues to build that out, then, and I think last time I had a meeting with them, they said they're going to be integrating identity link services for the social verifications too. So basically all of the data will be the same, which is really good.
Actually, we're looking at the identity link stuff like this week right now, like and also the parity with the SelfID data and everything. So that's like a 2-day thing, this task.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. And I think Paul also shared with you guys the image uploader that we had put in SelfID, just so because that's another weird thing, like with some of these standards, it's more like it does put some of the burden on applications to think about like just using good best practices, so other applications that are trying to make use of the data can do it efficiently. It's sort of like recognizing that that data may exist out of your specific context. And so, yeah, we basically just transform the image that's uploaded into multiple sizes so other applications could query like the thumbnail, for example, on a like a board that's showing a bunch of users of some kind.
Where was that link, by the way?
I posted it in the Discord.
Okay, cool. I'll just follow up.
I think Paul linked to the library we were using.
Yeah, it's the library and the relevant code we have in SelfID to handle it.
Awesome.
Cool. Joel, anything else?
That's everything we had on the agenda. I guess if we have any last kind of open questions or something like that, we could chat about them. Otherwise, we can give back 7 minutes.
Yeah, I'm interested to get feedback from the group if you checked on proof of humanity, and if so, what you think about it. I think this is kind of the first interesting approach to kind of bridge the digital and physical without violating the herd immunity of the system, because it actually doesn't reference personally identifiable data.
Cool.
Doesn't it reference person PAI? I thought you needed to like upload a video of yourself stating.
Yes, a video. Yes, that's it. You just upload a video associated in Ethereum address to that.
That seems to me like personally identifiable data. like you're recording a video of yourself. It's very identifiable.
It just proves that you're human, right? So you don't associate first last name with it. It's a pretty small file size. I don't know if you could do facial recognition with that.
Of course you can. Like facial recognition works on like an image.
Yeah, well, that's another topic we should talk about at another call, because we need defense mechanisms for that specifically, right? Well, we have the legal defense mechanism. Now it's about creating the technical defense mechanisms. Yeah, so personally, I like that approach. I think it's a viable starting point to bridge the digital and the physical. It's the first one I've seen that doesn't start on a meta level.
I think it puts a lot of power into the hands of the token holders of the Kleros court, which to me is like, I don't know how I feel about that. It's like a small group of individuals that controls who can basically decide who is human. Yeah, I have mixed feelings.
Well, on that part, my understanding how the system works is you have other people vouching for you, right? They're already part of the system.
Yeah, but ultimately it boils down to the Kleros court, which is like the underlying court system that decides if there is a dispute, if someone is human, then the court decides what the outcome is. And the court is controlled by the token holders, as far as I understand. But I might be missing some stuff here.
Got it. Well, and the consequence will be you lose your stake, I guess, right?
Yeah, the one who, well, the in the court case, sure, but I mean, you might also lose your humanity status.
Yeah, interesting. As I said, I'll find that principle very interesting, because I'm vehemently approached against having any kind of government issued ID even touch this. Right? Government issued credentials should be only relevant for government services at the end of the day.
Totally aligned with that.
Yeah, agree with that.
Yeah, so other than that, I've been extending the problem statement. I don't know if that's interesting to the group on the KYC topic with the Ethereum Foundation. So we're bridging 3 different groups right now. So I'll share the link again if I haven't, but I'm interested to get more feedback on that. I put it on GitHub.
Feel free to share the link.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a super important topic, needless to say, for onboarding, quote unquote, right?
Cool. Well, thanks everyone for jumping on. It's been nice chatting with you all. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
Talk to you later, John.
Yep. See you all next time.